today's video, I'm reviewing with more of a first impressions and a review of the Shinhan Professional SWC set. This is the tint set that I got for a really good price on Amazon. It's supposedly only supposed to be sold in Korea because it's remarketed as PWC outside of Korea, so it's interesting that this was for sale. But it was quite a good deal and I'm really happy with the paints. There are several colors available, only one of which isn't a pastel sort of tone, as in mixed with white. The colors of the labels on the tubes don't necessarily match perfectly, but the colors are very nice. Here I am putting them in full pans and getting things ready. I end up not keeping them in this old Faber-Castell tin and put them into a different tin instead, but it was my original plan. Brilliant Pink, pigments PR209, PW6. Shell Pink, PO34, PR9, and PW6. Jaune Brilliant No. 2, PO20, PW6. Naples Yellow, PY35, PBR24, and PW6. Green Pale, PG7, PY74, PW6. Emerald Green Nova, PY3, PG7, PW6. Horizon Blue, PG7, PB15, PW6. Blue Gray, PB15:3, PB29, PW6. Lavender, PB28, PV15, PW6. Lilac, PR122, PV23, PW6. Purple Gray, PR122, PW6. Neutral Tint, PB66, PBK11. As you can see, I'm doing swatches. One set of the swatch cards is going up in the window for light fast testing to check things for myself. And you also see these palette circles where I'm showing the color mixes in a nice circle. I like to do this and have been doing this for a while now. The reason why I'm doing doubles is because one's a gift. These were an amazing deal on Amazon. I found them and got them using some of my birthday money in order to get them. They were only $50.47 total, including tax, so it's free shipping and all the import was included, which makes it only $4.20 for a 15 milliliter tube. That's including the tax, which is only 28 cents per milliliter. This is lower priced than the Van Gogh student grade, even though these are full art grade and some of my favorite paints I've ever used. For example, it ends up being $12.63 a tube if I were to buy this same brand, the PWC line, from a place like Desir's, which is 84 cents per milliliter. That's an awful lot more money to get them normally in Canada, so this is an incredible deal. I'm very happy that another YouTube video told me about this deal and that I actually could get it in Canada. A lot of times when I hear about great deals, they're only available in America, not Canada, but this deal was available in Canada. I can't guarantee it still is, but it was one of the best deals I've ever seen on full artist grade paint, and I really have to highly recommend it because I do really like these. These are tints that include white, so a lot of people might not want them as much, but personally they really filled in my collection, and I like to collect everything, try all sorts of different things out, and I like to use a great variety in my work. I also like to opaque watercolors as well as transparent at different times, and I like to use watercolor and gouache together. These paints really helped fill in my collection, and even though I'd already purchased the Naples Yellow as one of the few tubes I bought from Shinhan before, I don't mind getting a double as it's one of my favorite colors, and I think it's a really useful mixing color, especially if you don't mind opacity. The paints are definitely on the opaque side. They're nice and smooth. Sometimes when used thick, they can be a little glossy, but they typically are actually quite matte, and I really like the smoothness and the feel of the paint. I like the way they mix in with other colors, both other watercolors and gouache, and I love the way it feels. These paints also come out of the tubes really nice and smooth, and they are very good at drying down. They stay quite thick and full, even after being dried down for a while. During the process of this video, I ended up using the paints a bit longer than a true first impressions, as it ended up taking over a month to make this video, and I did a bunch of extra work before I finally finished the video. I ended up taking a long time to decide what I was going to paint with these to show an example and to test them out, and ended up inventing some new animals for my main world of Alpha Vetar in order to use it. I decided for a pastel reef because why can't certain animals on this reef actually be sort of pastel colored? Perhaps there's a lot of more pastel toned corals, so it would make sense to be camouflaged in, as well as maybe a pterosaurus mating coloration that becomes more vibrant at that season would be more pastel toned. As you can see, it's interesting to see what the color mixes are as you go around these circle palettes in order to see what the two colors mix together. Some colors are more similar and create a very smooth and obvious color mix, whereas I'm a little surprised by a couple of the color mixes. Forcing yourself to test out your colors and do color mixes with them is a really good way of learning how they work. I really found it really fun. I also love some of the qualities of these paints. There's something about paints with white in them that I really think is relaxing and calming, and I think is fun and less realistic in a certain way, unless of course you're painting things that have more of a pastel look. But this can be really fun if you want a particular look to things. I particularly enjoy using these paints. I find I really like the feel of Shinhan paints. I had previously also purchased the Marine Blue and the Naples Yellow, and I think I definitely want to try to invest and get some more of these, even if I have to pay more per tube. But there's another set on Amazon I'm watching and hoping it'll go on sale. I may actually buy that set anyway because it's still cheaper per tube to purchase it that way. I'll ask you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you're really enjoying my content. Here's the pastel reef I previously discussed. This is hot press Fabriano 20% cotton paper, which I hadn't really tried this paint on before this painting. I like this paper, but it's one of my more expensive papers, so I don't use it that often. And I didn't pre-wet the whole area. I was considering masking some of the animals off and then going over with my largest brush and creating a more proper gradient, but I also thought, well, I could just wet it as I go along, allow it to be slightly patchy. I lifted out some clouds and I allowed it to be a little streaky. Now I have to say it doesn't look as good on camera as it does in real life, which is a bit disappointing, but in real life this color here is actually the horizon blue, which is more of a turquoise color, and it looks more vibrant, more beautiful, slightly more greenish and more glowing and more tropical than it for some reason shows up as a slightly duller and more bluish tone on camera, and I don't know why, but it still looks good. It looks a lot better in real life, I have to say. So what I decided to do was to not overcomplicate the drawing. I did a bunch of thumbnails ahead of time in a separate sketchbook where I came up with the composition for this piece and what the layout was. I probably overthought it a little too much. Originally I was going to do more of a reef, show some anemone and coral, and I was going to do a Nile aqua, which is a murre deer antelope. But I ended up going with just these three creatures, which are actually new animals I came up with recently. The Paliconius jellyfish, they're pink and they're in the distance, and the Rhycoqualin pterosaur, which is the pterosaur I'm painting here. This is a vivid during breeding season and more pale and paler pastel tone, not in breeding season. This fish here is called the short fin veyrote. Even though it has such a large tail fin, the fins on the rest of the body are longer on the original species I made up a long time ago, so it's actually the short fin variant. And I changed a few other things from the original design. My original design for the veyrote was very pastel colored and fit in, but it didn't look as good curved into this position, so I made a new subspecies that would look really good curved into this position, which was part of my original composition. I also made sure their eyes are directly pointing at each other so that they can be gazing upon each other and looking at each other. The veyrote is too large for the Rhycoqualin pterosaur to hunt. This area is Nerlenin, the coastal region on my main world of Alpha Vetar. I filled in a few other things in the area, and I looked up a little bit of reference of pictures that were half in and half below the water. I decided to do more of an extreme angle here because I thought it would be more dynamic and interesting. And as you can see, I'm layering things up. It actually does look even better in real life. I have to say that for some reason the horizon blue doesn't look quite as good on camera. It loses some of the greenishness to it and looks a little more blue. I do think it still looks good on camera, but it's my favorite one of these colors overall because I love turquoise. But it's the one that looks a little different in real life and on camera, and definitely looks even better in real life. I'm actually using the fact that these are pretty opaque colors to my advantage in this case. And I did notice that it's different using paint on different paper, but this is true for absolutely every paint. Every single paint, especially when it comes to watercolor and also gouache, but especially watercolor, will work differently on each different paper. So do tests on every single paper, take notes, and be prepared to change which paper you're using. Even if you're trying to change up to a new paper and do something, it might not work the same way as your practice tests. So just be ready to adapt to the paper and change your techniques up a bit. However, I do think these paints are really lovely. I highly recommend them for people that aren't scared of opacity or pastel tints. And I highly recommend them for people who want something different in their collection and want to get a great deal on full artist grade watercolors. I really think they're some of my favorite paints I've ever used, and they really suit adding to my collection, especially at this time. As I said, the smoothness and quality of the Shinhan paints make me really like them. I also think they palette incredibly well, but not sticky and tacky the way that honey watercolors do. Overall, I highly recommend the Shinhan paints, but it depends on what style of paint you like. And here's a final look at the artwork I completed. Once again, that's all for this video. If you like my videos, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to all notifications so you will know when a new video comes up. I aim for new videos every Wednesday, but sometimes life happens and things are delayed. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you with another one very soon.